got more muscle. But it's just
I don't think she does.
But that's just a weird...
than Olivia.
And then also and then also Olivia never acts. So the way we see her in the beginning of the movie, she's never like that in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, then later she's just a nice, mildly insecure, but like understandably insecure, like a nice person, right?
Yeah. So I don't really get that, and it's weird when you watch. So let's say maybe Final Destination 2 or Final Destination. There are wonky characters. I wouldn't say characters have ever been Have they been the strong part of this franchise? I mean, there's been a lot of cookie cutters.
How the characters worked together was a strong part of part 1, right?
Yeah.
And a little bit of part 2. But honestly, I think that these characters in part 5 overall are the best written characters as individual characters.
Well, if you think about it, because they have backstories. So we talked about the first one, but the characters are kind of blank. Well, to be fair, the characters are just trying to survive and figure things out. There's a mystery. And then the second one, there's really you don't know what any of these characters want to do with their lives. The third one, none of that. The fourth one, ooh. But this one, you have, a couple, the kid wants to go to Paris and his girlfriend breaks up with him because she doesn't want to stop him from realizing his dreams. And then they decide to go together and it's crushing. At the end, you're like, wow, that's mean. And then you have the guy who tells his girlfriend to proceed with her final gymnastics practice and she dies. And he realizes about taking life. You have a guy that is a man, like, there's a subplot. I like the subplot with Nathan. He becomes a manager at this plant, and he has to deal with all the idiot union guys. And it's like, why are you giving us character moments in this, right? And even the door, like, I don't like that Isaac who gets booted, but the actor is good, and he pulls it off. Off.
He's playing a snide little womanizer who literally steals spare change and gift certificates from his dead coworkers' desks.
Yeah.
But he's likably despicable.
I think he's a good actor. That PJ Byrne. He's been in other big shows, so Mad Men, stuff like that. Wait,
I never saw Mad Men, believe it or not, but I liked him in The Game, which was that BET sports show. It had
he was in that.
It had Pooch Hall in it, young actor, and it had like Brittany Daniel in it.
Oh yeah, Brittany Daniel.
The girl from Sister,
mm-hmm.
Tamara Morales, is that her name? But she's in it. But yeah, so he was in that as a sports agent, kind of playing this character, by the way.
and he's just a little dirtbag, but he's a good actor. So you're going, okay, this, and I guess one point I was trying to make is, in the first few movies, you could have these dirtbag characters, and they don't really feel like they stick out because the movie's just not that strong. But in here, some of these false character moments stick out more.
Oh God,
does that make sense? Because
when we first meet Isaac too, and it's before they even get on the bus for the opening sequence, and you find out that he's such a womanizer because he's flirting with one girl. He takes a phone call. He's like, no, just a minute. We're going to continue this later. Hey, Amber. No, Kimber. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. Of course I remember you. We had that great time on Wednesday. Yeah. No, help me out. You're kind of a bigger girl, right? Like, he said so many things that should have just red flagged him in like 60 seconds. And I'm just giggling like a school kid, man, like at this jerk.
And then you have even the main character, Sam, his boss is cool. The main chef at the restaurant. I like the guy. When he tries the bouillon, he's like, yeah, the customers are idiots. I'm like, you're building characters.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. It felt so. So the thing is, I gotta watch Final Destination 5 on its own, like 6 months from now, because I watched Final Destination 4, and I was questioning everything about my life, and then I watched Final Destination 5, and it felt revelatory. So I need to watch it on its own, just so I don't have. Does that make sense? Like, you just have the lowest of the lows and something's a little bit better and you're like, whoa.
It distinctly is the most satisfyingly rewatchable. Despite the fact that the first one came out 11 years prior, I believe I've seen part 5 more times than I've seen any other Final Destination movie, to the tune of several viewings.
I mean, it's very lean, right? The movie moves quick. And what I think is really interesting is the deaths of these characters too. I mean, all right, so, hey, I did my top 5 deaths of the entire franchise. You want to hear it?
Oh, dear. Okay.
All right, so I don't know. 5 is tough for me because I just put Luton in the kitchen from the first Final Destination 5. Or Final Destination. Because
good pick.
It's just, she drops the stuff in the computer, the vodka, the knives. It's like, it was just the first time you saw... Because in the bathroom, that one guy died, but this one was more, like, silly. just watching the vodka pour and the computer and the glass shards and all that kind of stuff. So that's number 5. Number 4, I love this Olivia with her LASIK. Just trapped there and then hugging the teddy bear. I'm like, what? That's another character moment. So she's like hugging the teddy bear and just the laser. She put the thing like, and I thought the CGI was really good. And then, of course, it's followed by she falls through the world's weakest glass. A building should not have that glass. That's not for code.
Right.
But then she falls in a car and then the 2 eye squishes. I mean, that just made me laugh. And the third one's in Final Destination 2. I didn't include the premonitions. When Nora gets airbagged into the pipe.
Uh-huh.
Because I didn't remember that. And when that happened, I just went, oh, yeah, that was good. Number 2 is Candace and her gymnastics, which we'll talk about after this. But number 1 is Terry in the bus. I know it's the quickest, and it's been watered down because they've done that death so many times. But I gotta tell you, man, when I first saw Final Destination and when that bus kill happened, I just remember the theater and me just going insane. Like, that was a great death, cinematic death. So those are my top 5.
I'd honestly only swap out that last death with Rory's death from part 2.
Which one's Rory? He gets
Rory was the one who wanted Kim to hide his porn and drug paraphernalia before he got zip sliced by the razor wire after the explosion.
He gets cubed.
Which happened as a result of the airbag PVC head impalement death that you listed.
And I love the kid in Final Destination 2 getting squished. I love the guy slipping on the spaghetti in Final Destination 2. But I just had to add Luton. It's just like an OG. So I bookended it with 1 and 1. But this death with Candace, I mean, that's the way they built it up with the random nail on the balance board. And she misses it completely.
Right.
And then the water on the fan.
I know that. I know she's going to miss it, and I still get nervous while I'm watching her on the beam.
And you watch these movies, right? Like, remember A Quiet Place with the nail? And then you have Home Alone 2 with the nail. Any movies where people step on nails, I feel like that's instant suspense. Because as humans, we've stepped on sharp things before. So just the thought, like I've never experienced a nail in my foot, but I've stepped on sharp things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can just feel that's such like a visceral watch. And so when I didn't remember the scene because I saw it once in the theaters. And I was just on the edge of my seat smiling. I had no idea that the thing fell and it went to the fan. I mean, geez Louise. You sent me a message saying you watched it 47 times in a row and you were still smiling.
And then all that talcum powder blows by. She loses her grip on the beam and you see her flip in the air. So it's all one. I mean, well, I'm sure they, strip together or CGI together stuff, but it looks like one shot from the moment she loses her grip to the point that her body lands with her back broken and her femur like impaled out of her leg and her hand twitches. Oh, it's so great.
So that was her stunt woman's legs and that was her body. They did a weird green screen thing where they composited that into it. But I mean, that death, dude, and it's so sudden and it's, I hate to say it, but it's mean. Like, it's a mean. So in the first Final Destination, when Luton gets killed, you're just laughing because the vodka's trailing her and the knives fall. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a silly.
Once the knife fell, it started to feel a little mean to me. But I liked it though.
But it's such like a intricate thing. So the deaths are played out. She gets a thing in her neck, right? And then she gets burned, and then she gets stabbed, and she's still alive. But then the chair falls onto it, which is funny to me. Maybe I'm sick in the head, but it was so convoluted. The death in this scene wasn't convoluted. Everything leading up to it. Does that make sense? It wasn't a drawn out death.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah, it was more like Mousetrap than a thrill of the chase.
Yeah. But you're going, whoever wrote that, I mean, these guys did a really good job with these deaths. And even the beginning premonition, I thought was well done I love when Olivia falls into the water and survives and the car lands on her. I mean, how helpless would you feel just watching that? I just felt, man, could you swim out of the way? Could you make it? Would you freeze? Yeah, does that make sense?
Well, but on top of that, we also know she can't see because her glasses are off.
Oh.
So she wouldn't even know that was there until it was blotting out the light, 50 feet above her, and then it would be like a millisecond before it strikes her.
And I mean, with that death, when I Candace, who's also in Frozen. I love that movie. They get stuck in the lift. That's a good movie. When Ellen dies, it's just so quick. I don't know. And then but the other kills are.
Nathan gets the abrupt kill.
Nathan, what happens to Nathan? Oh yeah.
Remember the cranes hanging hook, whatever thing, like just whips by and splatters him. It's almost like a Terry death.
Yoinks him away. Oh, I loved it. And yeah, they actually had him.
Asphalt.
They had him doing that, and then they had a body get squished. Oh my gosh. When David Koechner, when he gets burned to death.
I love some of the nuance with that because it's after he gets it and you see the result, right? Like, even though he's covered in the asphalt, you see a little bit of fleshy bits and you can tell like the hair is all gone. It's almost like a skull with molten, and you see the skin over his two main fingers slough off and reveal the red underneath as he loses his grip and falls. Like, oh, it's glorious.
I didn't like the CGI of Friedkin and Sam. Those were very CGI'd, but they still were squishy. And then they did end with a squish on a thing on the bottom. So, I mean, that wins points for me. But it was a strong scene. I mean, the CGI was good. Compared to the fourth one, it's such a step up.
Yeah, and when our premonitionist, I forget his character's name, falls and he hits that cement support of the bridge on the way down, it was like dropping a water balloon that exploded at an angle and then his body ricocheted. Like, so people really thought about this.
Yeah, and they showed that
awesome.
In the premonition earlier, they dropped the bucket and it did the same thing.
You know, and while we compare to the worst movie, like in part 4, during the premonition, a lot of people died during the premonition, and you don't see them die on screen.
Yeah.
About half of the deaths, and I don't mean random audience members, I mean people who you then later, they're like, oh, look at this horrible impalement they suffered or something. There are a lot of deaths that are critical deaths that happen off screen, whereas in this, every pertinent death happens on screen.
You're right. Not just by squishes or, drops or pull out of the way or hit by cars. I know we're bagging on the Final Destination a lot, and it deserves it. But what's the one kill that I think the Rock kill had merit? It just was, you didn't care about the character at all because it could have just been Lady. Like, she didn't even have a character. I mean, I like the idea of her kids are just throwing rocks for some reason, but
I think they could have done better with the hair salon. I think that there was so much more in their toolbox in the hair salon they could have used, but obviously, I mean, they were trying to make it about a red herring, and then it was what it was at that weed whacker lawnmower hitting the rock. But I wanted it to be something in the hair salon.
Yeah, and it's like a big red herring. But I do worry about lawnmowers shooting stuff at my car when I'm driving by sometimes. So I mean, that's a worry.
Dude, you say that? No joke. A week ago, I was driving home from work. This is true. This is just like the crack is in my windshield right now. Someone was weed whacking and knocked a rock, and huge crack. Like, I actually pulled over onto a parking lot to see if water would leak in. Like, it was such a big crack. And then, of course, I go back looking for the dude who did it so I can take pictures of some shit. But I mean, I was livid. But when that happened, man, it really rattles you.
Yeah.
That startles you.
So, I mean, I do like the idea of that kill, and it feels something, that's what I like how these movies kind of excel at, where, the gymnastic thing, or a LASIK thing, or, logs dropping. You feel like they should be based on real life frights. Does that make sense? But instead.
Yeah, and it's funny, that rock, though, you do start to wonder, like, what if I was walking?
Yeah, it would hurt.
Like, I think I'd be dead.
Yeah, and then
that's what that did to the windshield.
But then you have these deaths in this movie where, like, a bathtub falls on Cowboy John, or the racist gets dragged by a tow truck. You have
fire.
Yeah, then you have the guy. You have Hunt. Broseph getting everything sucked out of his
disemboweled.
butt. And they couldn't have any blood in that pool because it was a public pool, so they had to have everything just get sucked out and not because they couldn't put anything in the water. But he's just I don't know. None of that worked for me, right?
So I kind of enjoyed the escalator death, even though I think they squandered the presentation of the escalator death in part 4.
Oh, they were squishies. That's why you liked it.
I think that they totally squandered their opportunity to have done a good job of that. but I still enjoyed it. I like the terror of the unreasonable terror of the escalator.